Hey everybody, it's Rachel here. I get asked about my hair all the time, and today I'm spilling the tea on my secret weapon, the Dr. C Tuna Hair Care Reviving Line from Pharmacy. Seriously, if you've ever used a shampoo that leaves your hair feeling stripped, dry, even staticky, you know exactly what I mean. This shampoo cleans your hair so perfectly that it feels super clean, light, and bouncy without that over dry, flat, I lost all my moisture vibe. And then there's the conditioner. It makes your hair incredibly soft and silky, yet never greasy, which is really important to me. I sometimes get nervous about using conditioner because I feel like it's going to grease my hair too quickly. And you're not weighed down or ever worried that you're going to have that heavy feeling later. It's packed with nourishing ingredients that revitalize your strands, boost shine, and even help you manage your frizz. And the best part, you get these luxury hair products without paying a luxury price. Yes, you can indulge in that high-end feel and transformation without breaking the bank. Trust me, once you've tried the Dr. C Tuna Reviving Line, you'll notice your hair looking and feeling amazing. Get ready to rock that hair that's as healthy as it is gorgeous. You deserve it. Go to www.pharmacyus.com. That's spelled farmasius.com/Yucatel, my last name, and find the products there. The website is packed with all sorts of my favorites. Definitely make sure you check it out. And also, the link will be in our show notes.
I've always been into the paranormal, the unknown. We had Post Malone come to the museum. He was on an episode. They had an experience, and after that, his plane crashed. He got into a crazy car crash, and then his house was broken into.
Come on.
I'm serious. I know, even to me, like there's moments where it's just like, it still blows my mind after all these years.
I think as people who are somewhat skeptical, you really want to believe. You would do anything to believe, but you just don't know how.
I've been with the show 15 years. After everything I've seen things lift off the ground and go flying by themselves. I've been dragged backwards. Something's grabbed my leg and pulled me backwards, and you see it on camera. I get pulled back and there's nothing there. I've had scratches appear in me. I've witnessed exorcisms, possessions, rituals, all kinds of things. I've climbed through a mass plague pit under Paris, 300 feet below, filled with human bones. We've been to Dracula's castle. We've been all around the world doing this, and these things still blow my mind.
I find this fascinating. You've sort of made me a believer.
I remember seeing the show air and being like, that's true to what happened. It's not manipulated. It's not made to go a certain way. Like, that's literally how it is.
They're sitting there like staring at me. I can see this like,
are you mad?
Did you hear that?
Do you think ghosts are real? Or is belief in the paranormal just something we chalk up to grief, desperation, or even maybe a need for attention? Is it only the mentally unstable or the overly medicated who claim to see spirits? I've always wanted to believe. There are people I've lost, my father, my fiance, and of course I've longed for some sign that they're still with me. But every time I've considered the idea that they might be reaching out, I've quickly brushed it off as wishful thinking. Honestly, conjuring up anything that feels tangible when it comes to spirits has always struck me as more of a mental breakdown than a message from the other side. Do you feel me? Do you know what I'm talking about? So when I found out one of the stars of Ghost Adventures on Discovery would be a guest on the show, I thought, okay, this could be interesting. A cool behind-the-scenes peek into a series that's been running for 29 seasons. That alone says something. People want to believe. But what I didn't expect was that Jay would actually shift something in me. He's not only a guy chasing ghosts on TV. He started out skeptical like me. He's technical, grounded, and observant. And yet he's now one of the strongest believers on the team because he's seen things the rest of us cannot explain. This conversation made me start to question my own certainty. It gave me a language I hadn't had before about energy, presence, light, and dark spirits. It cracked the door open for me to consider that maybe, just maybe, the line between the living and the dead isn't as definitive as we may think. Whether you're a believer or a skeptic, whether you've lost someone and wished they could reach back, or whether you've rolled your eyes at paranormal shows and think it's all just for ratings, this episode might surprise you. It definitely surprised me. Thank you for joining us today on Misunderstood, Jay.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me here. It's just great.
So, very interesting topic. One that I think a lot of people don't believe in. And I guess there are a lot of people that do because you guys are in 29 seasons of a show, right?
Yeah.
So I want to get to the point though of like what it is that you guys do because there's so many non-believers. And before people stop listening to this podcast, I want them to give it a chance to believe. You know what I mean?
For sure.
Tell me how you got into this first.
Yeah. So, I mean, for me, I've always been into the paranormal, the unknown. I kind of, as a child, I grew up just curious of everything, honestly, not even just the paranormal, just knowledge. I studied different belief systems, different myths, different cultures, and kind of what they believed. And I started finding there's all these like crossovers that a lot of beliefs find these same things, these same paranormal things that are happening. So it's kind of cool because it was an interest as a child, and then you grow up and you kind of, real world kicks in, and you have to get work, and you go on like that. And then around 2010, I was doing television work based around New York City, doing a lot of reality TV as a camera guy, sound guy. And a show reached out to me and just said, hey, we've been hiring a local sound guy wherever we go, but sometimes we're in the middle of nowhere out in an abandoned town. So we're renewed for another season. We want to bring on a full-time sound guy. So they brought me out just as their sound guy originally. It was just another gig for me. So then I worked that. And about a year after that, being such a small group of people, we became close friends. And then one day, Zach, who's the main host of the show, we were filming at Johnny Cash's house in Jamaica.
Wow.
And which was wild because it was left just like he left it. Like his shoes were there, his clothes were like his closets were full of all his clothes.
Wow.
Like it was just literally the day he left. And I wasn't part of the investigation originally. Our show's kind of split into two parts. The first half of the show, we do a lot of research, we do history, we do preliminary investigation to kind of find out what's going and tell the story of what's happening there, or at least the claims of it. And then the second half is just investigators, no crew, no one else, full lights off, and we investigate. So originally I was only part of the first half. So I was there to record sound for the interviews, history part.
Right.
And when they investigated Johnny Cash's house, Zach got an EVP, which is called electronic voice phenomena, which basically is when you record audio and say like right now we're recording, but you listen back and you hear a voice that's neither one of us.
Right.
And it might be answering a question of ours, things like that. That's an EVP. And you hear Zach say, do you like Johnny Cash's music? And you hear this, yeah, come right in. And it was like pretty clear. And the next shoot, we're driving somewhere in Arizona, and Zach's like, hey, Jay, check this EVP we got at Johnny Cash's house, because he knows I'm a big music fan. He's like, do you think this sounds like Johnny Cash? And I was like, yeah, it actually does. I was like, you could take his voice and get a sample of the real Johnny Cash voice and do a waveform analysis, and then take that EVP and do a waveform analysis, and almost like a vocal digital fingerprint, if you will.
Right.
And then kind of line them up and see how much it matches. And he was like, you can do that? I'm like, yeah, I'm a tech nerd. That's what I do. So he's like, all right, great. We'll have you do that. So then that was my first time. He brought me in front of the camera to do this.
To show what you did.
To do this analysis, which it did line up, which was pretty amazing.
Wow.
And then from there, it kept evolving. I kept kind of throwing more ideas out and being brought in for different experiments, different analysis, things like that. And then it just kept evolving.
Up until that moment, though, were you like, okay, I'm just doing sound on a show, or did you really believe in what they were doing?
Yeah, I remember even the first episode, we actually flew out to Vegas, and we went out to a place called Goldfield, which is pretty much halfway between here and Reno, an old mining town. And there's a Goldfield Hotel, which is infamously be known. When they originally started the show, they did a documentary, and they caught a brick flying through the air by itself, and that was there. And I remember the first time I was there, Aaron on the show, while we were setting up, he's like, just go down in the basement by yourself. And I remember I was like, all right, sure, why not? Not even filming. I just did it. And I remember seeing shadows and all kinds of things. And I was like, all right, this is wild. And then I remember watching that episode when it came out. And at this point, I worked in reality TV for years. And a lot of reality TV is kind of edited. It's made to look certain ways. And I remember when I was simply just a crew guy, I remember seeing the show air and being like, wow, that's true to what happened. It's not manipulated. It's not made to go a certain way. Like, that's literally how it is. And since then, being more involved with the show and in front of the camera now, it's still the same way. And we have 100% creative control. So we don't have producers, networks that's telling us how to do things, what to do, redo things. Like, we have full control, and we kind of approach every investigation. Personally, I go in skeptically. I don't want to just believe everyone's claims. I don't want to just believe this. I want to experience it and document it firsthand. And that's what we try to do. We try to actually document things and prove it the most scientific from multiple devices, multiple ways.
Okay, so explain to me though. Well, okay, 29 seasons. How many episodes per season?
It varies. The network kind of airs them in all kind of weird way. I know we're well over 300 episodes at this point.
But I mean, are you talking 10 a season, 20 a season?
Probably, I think 12, 13-ish, probably on average.
So I asked that because you're finding at least 13 that are airable scenarios where you're finding something that is paranormal, right? That seems hard to find if it's not there, right? Or unless it's being staged or if it's real. So how do you guys even come up with the idea of where to go, what to look at?
Yeah, so a lot of it is honestly, it's fans. Social media today, a lot of fans reach out to us and they'll say, hey, there's a spot in my hometown you should check out. And then we take those things and we have researchers that work for us. So we'll send in ideas or they'll just find things and they basically put it all together, do all the research for us. And then ultimately they'll basically pitch 5 or 6 places to Zach. And he ultimately is like, let's do that one.
Right. Have you ever gone into one and you're there and you're filming and nothing happens?
Yeah. Yeah, we have. But we still air it. That's the thing.
Oh, okay.
I think part of our show and what makes it unique is it's us. You know what I mean? It's Ghost Adventures. It's the adventure. Even if we're not finding anything, it's still the process. We still go through the same process.
Right.
And we do a thing called even debunking where we might get terrified, in the moment, but then all of a sudden we realize what it is and we'll show you that. We'll be like, oh, like there was a point, I think we were up in a town called Pioche, Nevada, and they were walking down the hallway. I was at Nerve Center watching the monitors, and all of a sudden you hear this crazy hiss, and it's pitch black. No one else is there. It's going to make you, jump and get freaked out.
Yeah.
And Zach freaks out, and then all of a sudden we realized it was one of those little automatic air fresheners that was just going like,
oh yeah,
and we didn't know that. But in the moment, it's terrifying. But we show you that. We say, and then we kind of laugh at ourselves.
Right.
So I think it is more our adventure and how we go through it. There was an episode that we did in Seattle at a home where this family was claiming honestly outrageous claims, like 666 would appear on the walls, their posters caught on fire, they would wake up and their pants would be nailed to the wall, things like that. So for us, we're like, this sounds great. We want to experience this and see it. So we went out there and we did our full investigation, and we left it as, while we were there, nothing happened. Like we didn't capture any evidence. We still showed you our process, what we went through, and unfortunately, we didn't get anything.
Right. Is it like Ghostbusters where you have like a little device and it says if you have spirits near you?
We have a lot of different devices. It is, in a way.
Tell me about the devices.
I guess one of my favorites, which is, not to get too techie, but I like it because it's grounded in science and physics.
Okay.
We have a thing called the XLS camera, which uses a grid of infrared lasers to basically map a room out. We originally hacked it out of an Xbox Kinect system, like way back in the day, and developed it based on that. And the software knows the human form. So say we're shooting this right here, we're shooting it into this room here. It kind of, you see like an archaic mapped out version of the room. And then if a figure is there, if I'm standing there, it does a stick figure that kind of outlines our body because it knows that's the human form. The thing is, we shoot this for hours and hours at times. There's nothing there. It's an open space. And all of a sudden, a stick figure will appear. That the software is mapping that there's a human figure there when we can see there's nothing there. So that's pretty impressive to me that after hours of footage, all of a sudden these things appear.
Sure.
Not only that, but we actually have got an intelligent response where we'll try to interact. Once we see it, we'll kind of wave and be like, hello, and it'll wave back to us.
So it's in real time. It's not like you're watching back.
Yeah, we're walking around with a tablet system so we can actually see it in real time.
So on the tablet, you can see it wave back or whatever.
Yeah, there was actually a time, one of the craziest, we were at this old prison in Arizona, and there was a stage where they used to let the prisoners kind of do performances.
Yeah.
And we went in there and we're shooting the stage, and all of a sudden 3 figures appeared on the stage, and it's just an empty stage. 3 figures appear. One's kind of going like this, one's going like this, and one's going like this. Like it was like a guitarist, a singer, and a drummer. And we just, we were like little kids giggling and just loving it. And they kind of were up there for a while, and then all of a sudden they stopped. They were still there. They stopped moving though. We applauded. They literally bowed and then just vanished.
Come on.
I'm serious. I know, even to me, like there's moments where it's just like, it still blows my mind after all these years. I've been with the show 15 years, And, after everything I've seen things lift off the ground and go flying by themselves. I've been dragged backwards. Something's grabbed my leg and pulled me backwards. And you see it on camera. I get pulled back and there's nothing there. I've had scratches appear in me. I've witnessed exorcisms, possessions, rituals, all kinds of things. I've climbed through a mass plague pit under Paris, 300 feet below, just filled with human bones. We've been to Dracula's castle. We've been all around the world doing this. And these things still blow my mind. I wish I could just be like, oh, it's this. I wish everything could be debunked. It would be great to just kind of sleep at night a little easier.
Right.
But there's so much that, without a doubt, there's so much more to just this world than just this.
Wow. So what's the difference between what you guys do and, say, a medium?
Mm-hmm.
Like, do you believe in mediums, by the way?
Yes and no. I believe there are a lot that kind of put on a show, but I do believe in legitimate ones. I've encountered different psychics and mediums that have actually impressed me with things that I'm like, okay, you're legit.
Have you ever brought one with you on a adventure to see if they can communicate with?
Yeah, we do. We bring them out from time to time just to kind of see what they pick up on. We've done stuff where we've even blindfolded them and they don't even know. Like, we literally fly them in, we grab them at the hotel, we bring them in, and then just let them loose. And they've come up with impressive things. Actually, in the new season, we do an episode at the Winchester Mystery House. And it's the 100th anniversary of Houdini being there. And he was big into doing seances there. So we do a seance on the 100th anniversary of him being there. And we bring in the only blood relative of Houdini, and we have a psychic and a warlock with us.
What's a warlock?
Basically a male witch.
Okay.
And then I don't know if it was just that energy or whatever, but what we caught there, we documented actual visual evidence through cameras and taking actual Polaroids, which we try to do Polaroids a lot because that's something we can actually, you take the picture, you have it right there. You could show the camera.
Right.
Like, there's no time to manipulate. There's no time to do anything. Like, you see it happening in real time. We capture some amazing photographic evidence in that one.
Right. I guess, like, devil's advocate is how come you guys are capturing all this stuff with camera and there are people that are dying to interact with their loved ones or find a missing kid or a dog, I don't know. But, and they are not having success.
Right.
How would you explain that?
I think part of it is it's like fishing. Sometimes we'll be out there, sometimes we film for hours and hours and hours. And the thing is, when you see the show, it's, we're out there for hours. It's edited down. The investigation's only like, minus commercials, like 20 some odd minutes.
22, yeah.
So it's kind of like the highlights of, literally an entire night of being out there.
Right. So you're there a while.
Right.
It's not just you walk in and walk out.
And I think too, what's different about our show is that we don't stop. We literally film every other week. Like, since I joined the show 15 years ago, we've filmed every other week.
Wow.
We get an occasional week off for Christmas, things like that. We'll get an extra week off here and there. But if you know anything about the TV world, most shows are, you shoot a season in a month or two, then you're down for a few months, and then you pick back up for the new season. But we just shoot nonstop. So we're kind of always in it. We're always in it. We bring things home with us. Like, it's not just like we're clocking in for work. We do it and we go home and it's all, happy. Like,
speaking of clocking in and clocking out, has this ever affected a relationship?
100%.
In what way?
I've gotten divorced.
Wow.
Yeah.
Why?
So my wife at the time, she was our behind the scenes photographer. So she would travel around with us and do promotional shoots for us and kind of just behind the scenes. During the first half of the show, she would do those. And we were filming at a place called Goatman's Bridge outside of Dallas, Texas. And we were just filming our interviews. She's just behind the scenes snapping photos. And all of a sudden we see her being affected, like just getting very negative, getting aggressive. And then we stop and we check on her. And she's just saying she doesn't feel like she's herself. She's just getting these thoughts to hurt us. Just really affected in a negative way.
And that's not her personality.
It's definitely not. She's super chill, relaxed, almost like hippie, easygoing like. So we could tell she was being affected by something, some kind of energy that was there.
Right.
So she wanted to face it. So when we did the investigation, she went out into the woods by herself. We monitored from a control station and something hit her in the head. And she had crazy experience out there, and I give her all the credit in the world, like the guts it takes to go out and face that. But after that, we told her, we're like, she like kind of, I don't want to speak for her directly, but like she kind of had a breakdown. Like she kind of like started feeling things were following her home and like seeing things more often. And she kind of, broke down. And fortunately, that led to just more negativity, drinking, things like that. And it just deteriorated more and more over time. And then eventually we got to a point where it was like, obviously this isn't going to work anymore.
I'm sorry to hear that.
That's okay.
Do you think that, spirits or all these things, it's energy? Because you're talking about something, affecting her. Is there a possibility that it's not a spirit, but it's just certain energies? And I don't know anything about this science, but I do know that people do believe in energies, and that doesn't necessarily mean it's a dead person standing over you.
Right. And I agree completely. And I think that's one thing, doing this for so long and experience what I have, I'm never the one to be like, this is what it is. I know, like, I'm still always learning. And I love that. I love that we can keep evolving, keep theorizing, kind of putting the pieces together.
Right.
And I do tend to believe in energy. I personally, I'm not a religious person. I have a spirituality to me, but I'm not necessarily a religious person. But I do believe in energy, and there's good energy and negative energy, whether that's demons, angels, bad people, good people, whatever you kind of want to label it and talk to it. I do believe there's good and negative energy. And I've seen it in both ways. I've encountered things that's beautiful, positive energy. We've encountered people's loved ones before, and then we've encountered things that are just straight evil, and you could just feel that. And there's a whole thing. There was a series of water experiments by this Japanese scientist that took water samples. He would go up to the beautiful mountain and take this beautiful spring water, and he would freeze it and then look at it under a microscope. When he would look at it under the microscope, it formed these beautiful symmetrical crystals. Then he would take water from like the gutter in the city, freeze that, look at that under a microscope, and it was disfigured, malformed, non-symmetrical things. So then he took the beautiful water and projected hate to it. He literally, sounds crazy, but he projected hate. He would tell the water, I hate you, I'm going to kill you, blah, 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 like just projecting negative energy to it. And he froze that water, which was beautiful. Now that water's disfigured and non-symmetrical. And then he did the opposite. He took the water that was ugly from this sewer, projected love to it, said, I love you, you're beautiful, things like that. And now when he refroze that water was now beautiful symmetrical crystals. And he repeated this over and over again. And he basically proved that positive and negative energy actually affects, at least water on a molecular level. And if you think our bodies are 70, 80% of water, what's that doing to us? And then there's a whole thing called the stone tape theory, which is basically organic surfaces can hold a memory. Which, based on that experiment, there's water in wood, there's water in stone, things like that. So you go to a place that, a family was massacred or something that's just a brutal energy, even if the house is renovated and it's beautiful now, that energy is still in there. It's like almost like stained in the walls and the floor. And you can come in and under the right circumstances and right variables and even mindset and devices, you can pick up on that energy.
Right. Fascinating. How much of it is about location, like you're talking about where something's in the bones of the house or the area versus, a spirit or an energy, let's say, following you? I mean, you've been doing this for, decades now, and you would think maybe somebody got pissed off at you and might be flying around the room wherever you are.
Yeah, I mean, we've thought that. We've gone to places. There was a case where we went to it was like I think like a VFW or one of those like American Legion, I think it was in LA. And it was like, oh, our friend is haunting us. Can you, like it was more of a happier type thing. And at that time, Zach and I were doing a documentary called Demon House on this house in Gary, Indiana, that was like full of demons and everybody that went in the house had accidents, all kinds of things. And during this time, we worked on it for a few years, but we were working on that during this time. But we're doing this investigation that's these people's house, these people's, friend is supposedly haunting it. We get in there and it was evil. And then that made me be like, shit, like maybe it is us. Like, we're sorry. Hopefully it doesn't stick there.
Yeah.
But I'm sure there are things that do follow us around. Sometimes we encounter familiar energies that you're kind of like, whoa, this feels like something we've encountered before.
Right.
I've encountered spirit. There's a phenomenon with Ouija boards.
I was going to ask you about Ouija.
Yeah, with a thing called the Zozo demon, which is, I've encountered this numerous times throughout my life, even before the show. I encountered it, not realizing what it was.
Explain it. What do you mean?
So when I was a teenager, we were playing the Ouija board and we wanted to go all out. So we were lighting candles, incense, water dish, dagger.
And just explain for people listening that are too old or young to know what a Ouija board is.
Right.
I used to play with it all the time, but
yeah, it's basically a divination tool. It's the alphabet, yes, no, goodbye. And you use a planchette and you hold it and you basically ask questions, and then the planchette moves and it spells out the answers.
Right.
And then you hope your friends aren't moving it and you get freaked out and it's a good time.
Right. Usually, I remember we would kind of move it to make it seem like something happened after nothing was happening because we wanted to make it a thing. But go ahead.
So this one night we were like, we want to go all out and we want to experience something. We want to get creeped out. So we think of everything ritualistic we can. Like I said, candles, water dish, daggers, incense, all that.
Oh, okay. So there are mediums that you bring into something to actually call.
And that's the thing, we didn't
spirits in.
at this time. We didn't know what we were doing. Like we're just dumb kids that were like, that's just anything we could think of that we've seen in movies that feels ritualistic.
Sure.
Let's put it in here. And we're playing. And we're talking to supposedly it's a little boy spirit, and it keeps saying its name is ZO, and I'm like, that doesn't make sense. Like, but whatever. And I noticed the incense smoke's blowing down to the dagger. So I'm like, that's weird. So I pick up the dagger, I move it, the incense changes, the smoke goes to the dagger again. And I was like, hey guys, check this out. Every time I move the dagger, the incense smoke would blow to the dagger. So then I asked through the Ouija board, I said, are you attracted to the dagger? It said yes. I was like, okay. And then I asked the stupidest question I've ever asked. I said, could you come through the dagger into us? And it said yes. So we all stopped for a minute. We're like, all right, like, what are we going to do?
Waiting, yeah.
Like, what are we, like, all right, this is what we wanted though. We wanted to get creeped out. We wanted to experience this. So myself and my one buddy were like, all right, we'll both hold it. The dagger's in a sheath, so you can hold the blade safely.
Okay.
We lay on our backs and we both hold it and we say, okay, you can come through into us. And I just got overwhelmed sadness, like through my head to my toes. Like it was the weirdest feeling. My buddy jumps up, knees on my shoulders, like I'm on my back, pinned down, and he's trying to pull the dagger out of the sheath. He breaks it open and he lunges it towards my throat, and I'm holding him like this, shaking with every bit of strength I have, and he's got gravity, everything, and the blade's past my chin, and he's just trying to shove it into my throat. And this goes on probably a good 15 seconds or so, and then he just full goes limp, full tears, crying, had no idea what was going on. And then we're all like, all right, we're good, we're done. Like, that's enough, and we stopped. And I was a teenager. So fast forward, we're doing the show, and we're in Oklahoma, and there's a case of this guy in a home that feels like this demon came through and has been torturing him and his family. And he was like, it's called Zozo. And I was like, that sounds kind of familiar, but I didn't piece it together right away. And then during the episode, myself and the guy who knows nothing about me at this point in my career, I never told this story publicly or anything. He knows nothing about me. So I'm like, all right, I'll do the Ouija board with him. So it's him and I. And it starts moving, and it says its name is ZOZO. And I'm like, oh, like, have we met before?
Right,
and it's like, yes, and I was like, what did you do to me? And it said, or what did you try to do? And it said, kill. And I said, how? And it spelled out stab. And like, this guy knows nothing of me. I know I wasn't moving it. So I was like that still kind of gives me the creeps and blows my mind that like over that time, it's, it still carries on, what I mean?
Okay, so if people are listening and they're like, oh, okay, I want to try and make contact with a spirit, are there ways to do it that are safe ways, but ways that you have found in doing all this research really works?
Yeah, I think...
first, do you need to start by finding a location that's supposedly haunted?
Yes and no. I think it helps, like, kind of based if we go back with the energy, if there's something intense has happened there especially. That's the thing, we tend to go to, like, darker locations. We tend to focus more on... darker history because there's something that's stronger, like the energy is more intense there.
Right.
But you don't have to. I think honestly, they're everywhere. I think a lot of it is being open-minded. If you're closed off and you're just like 100%, like you're probably not going to experience anything.
Right.
So I think being open-minded is a big part of it, but then also just communicating, just open up. You don't necessarily need devices. Even like you can use your phone and record and just talk and see if anything comes through. See if anything happens. Try to actually directly communicate with something. It feels weird at first because you're just maybe in a room by yourself and there's nothing there, but you try to communicate. But at the same time, it's kind of like the Ouija board. You're opening up that, whether they're portals, whether it's whatever it is during that act of communicating, whether it's a Ouija board, whether it's a spirit box, EVP session, XLS, anything that you're trying to communicate, you're opening up a doorway and you can't guarantee what's going to come through.
Right.
You know, like when we did the Ouija board, we felt it was a little boy spirit, but obviously it wasn't. It was something darker. So I think that's the thing, you know, that I always tell people, like people are like, how do we get into it? I was like, don't. Like sometimes it's easier. I think like we're so far in it. It's kind of just what we do now, but like it can be very dangerous. I've seen a lot of, you know, people get hurt. I've seen people die. I've seen things, you know, we've lost a lot of friends that dove really deep into the paranormal and it's like overtaken them.
Because what happens? They get paranoid, they get obsessed.
They just get like negative. Like I've seen, you know, beautiful people that were beautiful souls that were in love and positive and close friends. And then last time I saw them, they were saying that they felt something followed them home. And then a few months later, they're both dead in a murder-suicide. You know, I don't want to get too much into details, but like, you know, we've seen this happen. Just now, we just found out today, actually, which is just weird. All these things happen. You know, I don't want to say like there's a curse or something, but weird things happen around us. We all go through different things, all of us on the show, and even our extended family, friends, people that come in and out of the show. We have a new episode this season that we did at the Haunted Museum. And we had a special guest come in with ashes, you know, and we just found out today that that person was just involved in some crazy shootout thing with the police. Like, it's just weird how these things happen. We had Post Malone come to the museum. He was on an episode and he came to the museum to hang out afterwards, and he touched, via Zach, they kind of had this thing happen, you know, not to get too crazy with it, but they had an experience. And after that, his plane crashed. He got into a crazy car crash, and then his house was broken into, his old house. Luckily he wasn't there anymore, but they came in with guns looking for him. And so it's like these weird things happen, you know, to us and sometimes to the people around us.
Did you know that over 70 million Americans suffer from chronic sleep problems? Sleep just isn't about rest. It's vital for hormone health, stress reduction, and overall well-being. I used to struggle so much with my sleep that I became addicted to sleeping pills. And then that only took care of the problem of falling asleep. Staying asleep was a whole nother problem. But then I discovered Dreamies. Dreamies is designed specifically for women, helping to support your body's natural rhythms through every hormonal shift. It's a powerful combination of melatonin, ashwagandha, and magnesium. It calms the mind, relaxes the body, and promotes deep, restorative sleep. Now I wake up feeling refreshed and balanced, and I no longer need those prescriptions. I fall asleep easily and without a worry. If you've been tossing and turning, it's time to let Dreamies transform your nights and your life. Prioritize your health with the power of sleep and take back your energy one night at a time. Dreamies, because every woman deserves deep, restful sleep. So it's funny you mention that, because coming into this, I was like, you know, I don't really have any experiences that are positive where I can say, oh, I kind of believe, because I'll tell you the negative ones in a second. But as you were talking and right before, I did remember one curse that I do truly believe in my family. My grandfather's stepfather, his name was Rob DePeister Titus, I believe is his name. He was one of the guys, the 11 men who excavated King Tut's tomb.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And there was a curse that said that if you, and I don't know the exact curse, but if you Google it, something about how everyone will die, you know,
right, for disturbing the bones, whatever. And I think it was if they had actually removed artifacts or things in this tomb, which they all had, all 11 of them died. Right. And what was interesting is Rob came back. He married my grandfather's mother at the time. She soon after died. He had some artifacts. He built this beautiful home. It's called Ashentelly. It's in the Berkshires. It was a 35-room house built in bricks, and they have beautiful pictures of horses and all these people, going up the hill to build this house. And it was known as a house almost like the Titanic that could not burn down. Rob died also of a mysterious, thing. And my grandfather then was the son and inherited the home. All sorts of weird things around him happened. He had the artifacts in this home. And long story short, he got married.
he moved down the hill into a new house. They built a house because it was too big and it was very cold. It was very hard to heat. And there was just a few things left in it. And one day the wife was burning trash and somehow the wind blows the trash up the hill in a way that they were like, this could never happen. And goes right to the house and they could not stop the fire. And to this day, it's really beautiful. Only the 4 pillars are still standing. Really? People go and visit it. Maybe it's something you guys want to check out. But and then all the ruins are underneath it. And people come and check it out and try and find, cool things. But to the day my grandfather died, he always said that house was cursed. There's no way it could have burned down. They did everything. The entire town tried to put out the fire and nothing, nothing would work. And it kind of haunted him forever that everyone around him died and he was the only one to live. And he always believed that it was because Rob was his stepfather and he didn't necessarily grow up with him and too close to him, but he inherited this house that made him feel like he couldn't live in it. It was too cold and it was not even about the heat. He just kept saying it was cold. So anyway.
It's almost like an uninviting coldness that's just like you're not supposed to be here. So it's a place that people tour and it's really beautiful. And as a kid, I remember going into all the tunnels because, all the bricks are down and you can see where it's all burnt, but you can still go into all these underground things. It's really neat. That sounds really cool.
The other experience I had, listen, I've had 2 very important people in my life die. My fiance from years ago and my father when he was very young and I was young. He was 44, I was 15. So as I've gotten older, people are like, oh, I want to, have somebody talk to you. I want, a medium to meet with you. And it's, listen, I just feel like people can Google who you are, even if you're not Googleable. There are signs, I guess, that, that like not a magician, but someone who's a mentalist can figure out anything about you and they can say things and you're like, yeah, that is me. Yeah, that happened.
Yeah, they almost feed you lines. You're like, oh, you're having a little trouble at work. Oh my God, I am. How'd you know that? 90%
or
of the
you
world
have issues with, falling in love. Okay, well, who doesn't, So, and the last interaction I had with someone, they called me and they said, the weirdest thing happened. This, it was Andy, a big guy. He was standing behind me. He wants me to tell you something. And I get really agitated about stuff like that because I'm like, well, I'd love that to be true. And I'd love to hear what he has to say. But at the same time, I'm like, don't make shit up. And then you never really know, you know what I mean? So it's a very hard thing because I think as people who are somewhat skeptical, you really want to believe. You do anything to believe, but you just don't know how to, unless you have an experience like you're talking about where you actually feel it or see it. And I remember watching those movies that I loved. I guess it was called Paranormal Activity or something where you see the girl yanked out of the bed in the middle of the night. And I kind of would love for something like that to happen. If anyone's listening, don't do that to me. I'm kidding. But that would show me that that's real. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely. And I think, and I get skeptics. I get people that are like, I don't believe it.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. And I respect that. And I feel it is something that you need to experience to truly believe it and truly, see it. But I think there's something, I think it's something that we all want to know. We're all, even if people don't talk about it, there's a curiosity. And one thing I found about our show that I felt was almost fulfilling is I've heard from people that they're like, oh, I've thought I've been crazy my whole life. Or 20 years ago, we couldn't talk about this. I had experiences and you would get locked up and, put away or considered crazy, or they try to tell their friends and family and they're like, you're nuts. But they've seen our show and being on for so long and what we've experienced, it's given people this sense of hope and being like, oh, you're not alone.
Yeah.
These experiences you're having are experiences other people are having. And it's kind of created a community that people can actually talk about, and share stories and share things. And I think the more we do that, the more we're going to learn even more what is actually going on and what is all this stuff that's happening.
Yeah. Earlier you mentioned warlock and you said it was a male witch. What is a witch?
So there's different, I guess, variables of witches. It's not necessarily, it can be a religion. There's like paganism is a religion that or uses
Wiccan or something.
Right. Yeah. Wiccan, things like that. Basically it's a witch is someone that, it's kind of more of a nature-based religion.
Okay.
So they'll have deities, things like that, like different gods.
Okay.
But it's more about nature worship in a sense, but it's like the personification of different things in nature. It's very ritualistic. So they'll do offerings, rituals to kind of try to, get good blessings and do things. And then there can be stuff that they do that's bad.
Right. Like casting spells.
Right.
On
Which
people.
isn't all bad. Like I think witches get a bad rap that it's like, ooh, witches, it's all bad. But like I know plenty of witches that are the most amazing people and wouldn't hurt a fly, but they practice that regularly in their life. And it's almost like a lot of it's to do with like manifestation, even like in positive energy, just kind of manifesting your world, creating the world you live in.
Right.
But like they'll do it in a more structured, ritualistic kind of way.
Right.
I'm
just curious about your show. Do you think there's a stigma about you guys that do your show, that people that are in either reality TV or in like docuseries type of stuff are like, oh, that's made for TV, that's a joke? Or are people starting to respect what you do?
I think because we've been on so long and we are one of the originals, I think we've gained like a level of like credibility.
Yeah.
And the way we approach things, the way we bring on engineers and scientists and try to document these things the best we can and present it to the audience in a very, if we just experience something, we want to show it to the audience from multiple camera angles.
Sure.
So it's not just like, oh, it's probably this. Like we want to really, present it. But of course, there's going to be skeptics. I understand we are on TV, so there's the natural, like, oh, it's TV.
Yeah.
And I get that. I understand that.
And there are a number of different other shows. I mean, I think we've even had someone on, can't remember what show it was, and a different network and similar concept, but she was more, I think, like a medium or something.
Right.
Who went.
And I think there is, unfortunately, there are shows that have done things and it kind of can put a bad name for everybody in a way. Sure. But I think doing what we do for so long, and even when we do, like there's people online that, their goal in life is to bash us. That, these internet trolls, that just love to sit at home and type terrible things.
Right.
But if we see things, and if we see something that's like, oh, you know what? They kind of have a point. Like there was just recently, there was a case where like they watch an old episode and be like, wait a minute, this doesn't make sense. And we're like, you know what? They're actually right. Like that was an editing mistake. And then we kind of like go back and we were like, hey, look, we'll actually like, you want to talk about that? Let's go about it. Here's the original raw footage, unedited for the TV. So you can actually see what really happened in real time, things like that. Like we're not afraid to, back up, any kind of claims. And, obviously you don't feed into everything. Some are just straight trolls, but if there's something that's like, oh, like, all right, you have a good point. We'll address that and we'll, show you more or kind of talk about it or try to figure it out. And that's the thing too. Sometimes we get to a point where we're like, we don't always just be like, it's paranormal. Like, but we'll be like, we don't know. Like, this is something that's really unexplainable that's happened. We don't know how it happened or why it happened. Theoretically, it shouldn't. But we kind of sometimes leave it at that. We don't necessarily always be like, it's strictly paranormal.
Has there ever been a case that has kind of, no pun intended, but haunted you in the way that like you keep going back or you've been there and you could not figure it out, but it was something so extraordinary that you're like, we got to go back until we figure out what it is?
Yeah. Unfortunately, I think we don't necessarily go back to a lot of places. We do, like sometimes we'll do returns, things like in the new season, Winchester Mystery House. I think it's the third time we've been there. But every time we go, we get amazing evidence. And I think what's cool about when we can do that is it's like, it's more experimental. It's like, all right, now we can repeat. We're trying different things, but it's like we get a second chance to kind of be like, let's try a different approach, try different devices, things like that, and try to like see if we can document the same thing again.
Right.
And then I think that adds credibility to like, oh, like we've been here, like the Goldfield Hotel I mentioned earlier.
Yeah. They
had a brick fly. That's kind of what launched the show originally in the original documentary. We went back there a few times. One time we were back there and we caught a rock lifting off the ground and go flying by itself down a hallway on camera. And I remember we saw that and we were just like, this is the holy grail. This is the most amazing thing,
Right.
And I remember we were at the hotel, we're watching it over and over again, just in all that this happened. And we're like, should we just send this to CNN right now kind of thing, just like, it's so incredible. We're like, no, we'll wait. And then it kind of plays back into what you're saying earlier, how there's always going to be skeptics. Like in our mind, we're like, this is it.
Yeah.
And then it aired and it was a great episode and people were blown away. But then there's still people that are just like, whatever. What's next? You know? And
right. Was there an episode of yours in all these years that you absolutely loved?
Yeah, I mean, there's been a lot. I think some of my favorites in a weird way is we did a series. It was a spinoff series called House Calls, where we actually went to people's homes.
Oh.
I think we did 3 seasons maybe of that. And we were actually helping people. And to me, that was great because it
like
felt,
helping people figure out what was going on.
Right. Basically, we opened up the country to submissions to send us, you know, videos of what's going on in your house, if it's haunted, if what's going on, things like that. And then we would pick people. And then same thing, we're just going to these people's houses. So we're still going skeptically, but then you start interviewing these people and you start hearing their struggle, that they're in their own home and they're terrified and all these terrible things are happening to them. And you feel, you know, whatever it is, like they believe it and they are living in that world. And then we're there, one, to still document it. We don't just take their word for it and be like, okay, cool. You're
right. Because I'm sure a lot of people just want to meet you.
Right, exactly. So we're skeptical to that. But thankfully, we were able to document evidence in these homes. And then afterwards, we actually try to cleanse the home. We do cleansings, we do prayers, whatever, you know, is fitting for that house and that environment. We'll do that before we leave. And then a couple months later, we follow up with the family and we through Zoom and we kind of see how they're doing, what's going on. And that's how the show ends. And it was nice to hear. I'd say the majority of them actually ends up getting better. There's a couple that, you know, still were having some issues, but like for the most part, it actually helped a lot of people. And, you know, to see their thanks, their relief that they can now live in their home peacefully, you know, to me, that was very rewarding.
Of course. You talked about cleansing. You know, obviously this doesn't come with like a manual of how to do this. So how have you guys figured out, or if somebody is listening right now and they're like, I need help, what do you do to cleanse an area?
So I think it's a very personal thing. First of all, I think it's whatever you believe in. If you have a belief structure, if you're religious, pray. If you're religious, read scripture, things like that, you know, but if you don't believe that, it's probably not going to help you because it's just not, doesn't work, you know. But finding, for me personally, like if I'm on a shoot and I come home and I'm like, I don't feel right, like something's just lingering on me, I'm, you know, in a weird mood or something, you know, for me, it's spending time in nature, going hike, I play music, I find things that make me happy and I just engulf myself in it, you know, and sometimes I disappear for a couple days and just kind of, you know, have to almost like cleanse, detox in a way of like negative energy and just kind of just totally engulf myself in positive energy. So whatever that is to you. And like I said, it's praying, if it's, you know, it could be saging, it could, you know.
Do you believe in saging?
I like Palo Santo wood, actually. It's basically like a sage. It's a wooden stick instead of like a bundle of leaves. I feel it works better. I've seen better results from that.
Results meaning what?
A lot of people we talk to that were like, oh, we saged and things got worse.
Oh.
But Palo Santo seems to actually get rid of it. And it's also when you're doing it right, it's doing your intentions. I try to tell people, I grew up the youngest of 3 boys. So like, I love my brothers. They're great, but like they picked on me, you know, growing up. And then I learned after a while to stop paying attention to it. Like one day they were picking on me and I just was like, go ahead, just do it. And then they stopped. It wasn't fun for them anymore. I didn't fuel that, you know, they want that response. They want to see it. And I feel it's similar to these spirits, these energies that are affecting, especially if it is negative, they almost feed off your fears. They feed off the negativity. They make couples fight. They make tension. It almost, that fuels them. So like in a way, kind of, it's easier said than done, of course, but like ignoring them and not letting that any of that negativity, and almost the exact opposite, like overload it with love and positivity.
Right. This is just such a random question, but I thought of it when you were talking. Have you ever been doing work for the show, or, you know, working on someone's house or someone's issue, or finding whatever you guys came there for, and something personal happened, meaning you felt like you were contacted by somebody in your own life that was trying to connect with you?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I've had stuff, ironically enough, through a Ouija board again, which now looking back was probably the same spirit that's been messing with me since I was a teenager. Excuse me. And we started talking, on the Ouija board, and it started talking about my brother, who like I don't talk about, and he's not well. He's been going through a lot of health problems his whole life, and it's not something I regularly talk about, but it was coming up on the Ouija board, and I was getting emotional, and I was like, all right, this isn't cool. Like I kind of don't want to do this anymore, because it was doing all that. But the person I'm doing with knows nothing about me. They don't know this, at all. So that really hit me hard, personally. There's definitely a thing, like we get our names calling out to us. We hear mimicking, which will capture our voices, and we're not talking, which is a weird phenomena. And a positive personal for someone else I remember there was a case where we did a home in Texas, and we were investigating with the woman who owned the house. We use a device called a spirit box, which basically scans frequencies, and then it's so fast that there's no, like, we'll get sentences, like we'll be like, what happened here? And it'll be like, murder will come through. But when you put it in, you see the waveform, that scanning, that word murder is over like 15, 16 different frequency bands, and it comes across. So we were using that device, and I can't remember the word that it was, but some weird, like very random word that we're like, okay, means nothing to us. And we continue to carry on. The woman who lives there just starts crying. And we're like, whoa, like, are you okay? Like, what's happening? And she's just like happy crying. And she's like, that was my mother and I's code word. That like, if anything ever happened, that was like their thing. They're like, that's going to be the code word that we use, so that it's me, kind of thing. Wow. And it was beautiful. It was absolutely a beautiful moment. Even there was tears, but it was beautiful tears, and she felt this closure and this connection. That it was amazing personal experience for her.
I'm curious, in all the times you've been doing this, what do you think these ghosts are? Mm-hmm. Is it people that are trapped? Is it like, what is it?
So I have different theories, kind of. Mm-hmm. It can get weird. It can get really weird. I think one of the ones that I like to kind of go into, that I've been exploring more, is the idea of time. That like there's a whole theory in like quantum entanglement and quantum physics, where like there really is no time. Like when you think of what time is, it's something that we made to organize the day. Right. So there's a whole theory in quantum physics that like kind of everything that has happened and will happen and is happening is all happening technically at the same time, but it's our perspective, it's our consciousness that's making this reality now. So based on that, there's some weird, I don't know how or why, but there could be moments in certain locations, certain things that we can almost see through into the past or another time period. We did the Conjuring house, I think it was in Rhode Island, I believe, that they inspired the original Conjuring movie. And we were interviewing a daughter of the mother who, if you watch Conjuring, like the main mother who was affected the most, that was her mom. And she told us that after a while, the mother, because she was seeing these spirits in the house and it made her go crazy, but she finally came to a reasoning that she's just witnessing their life and their time. Like for whatever reason, her at that point, she could see into, like, there's like a hole and you could see into that time. And at first, it obviously freaks you out and it's scary, but she kind of accepted that and realized like, oh, this is just the family living here before us, like just doing their thing. And it made her be able to, I guess, become sane and kind of live with it and just understand that like, that's what it is. Right. It's not scary. They're not trying to hurt you or anything, at least in that case. Right. But it was just this, for some weird reason, you're able to glimpse into, another time period.
What do you think is most misunderstood about the paranormal?
And there's probably a lot. I think with us, kind of we mentioned earlier, like people think like, oh, we're a TV show, but this isn't a TV show. It is our life. Like there's stuff that you'll never even know about and never see about that happens to all of us. All four of us on the show, like we communicate, we talk to each other. Like we've had calls in the middle of the night that's like someone's in my house and freaking out and then no one's there. And just going through crazy bad luck after a really intense investigation, or feeling like something's holding you back and holding you down. And, we've all been through this. And I think that's the biggest misconception that, I wish I could, and I get it because it's TV, and I get it. And I'm very skeptical of TV myself. So I understand, but like, this is our life. Like, this isn't just, we're doing this for entertainment. We're doing it because we do love it, and we're all fascinated in what this is, and we want to know more. And we've been doing it so long that I feel like we're invested.
Right.
But it is our life. It affects us day to day, and, sometimes worse than others.
Has this affected the way that you think about your own mortality? And are you scared of death?
I'm not scared of death. I do believe there's more to it than this. I don't want to die.
Right.
I do enjoy this life, and I enjoy everything we get to do. But basically, I've developed my, I guess, mantra, if you will, or goal in life. My simple goal in life is to wake up tomorrow morning.
Yeah.
Like, if I can wake up tomorrow morning, I have a whole nother day that I can do whatever I want. If it's a crappy day, sucks.
Yeah.
But if I wake up the next day, I have another chance.
Right.
And whatever happens after this, I do know there's more to it. So I'm not necessarily afraid. Of course, I would miss this. I do enjoy it. So
do you have a code word that you tell your family if you die and somebody's checking for spirits? That
I just want to mess with them. I don't,
Right.
I don't want them to know it's me.
Gosh. All right. So this is the 29th season, right? Of
Yep.
Ghost Adventures. Yep. It just aired last night. Yep. Tell me what to expect from this season.
Yeah. So, last night was a wild one. It was a 2-hour special that we investigated the Poltergeist house, where they actually filmed the 1980s movie. And
favorite movie.
That was, if you know any of the lore, it was riddled with curses and tragedies, things like that, and even hauntings that were going on. And what was cool, we went into that investigation just as an episode. It was just going to be a regular 1-hour episode, but we caught insane evidence that we had to dive deeper, and we investigated even further, and it ended up being a 2-hour investigation.
Wasn't there some, and I just kind of remember like a lot of the cast members ended up dying later on.
A few of the cast members dying, a lot of the crew, even were interviewing people like in the neighborhood while it was going on, and that they were experiencing paranormal and hauntings even at the house while they were filming.
I can't wait to watch that, actually.
Yeah, so that was pretty wild.
Don't look into the light.
Yeah, and it was just cool to be there. We did experiments with an old TV set like they had in the movie. So it felt very nostalgic, and it was really, really a cool experience to be able to do that. We go back to a location we've done before called the Glen Tavern Inn, which is just a really cool old haunted, very classic haunted hotel kind of vibe. And we went back because they recently had tragedies and they felt like the activity's picking up. So we went back to kind of reinvestigate and see what was going on. And it was cool. We brought out a friend of ours, Jonathan Davis, who's the lead singer of the band Korn. So he came out and investigated with us. So that'll be coming out this season.
Awesome.
Which he was amazing. And it's cool when we bring in these people that you wouldn't expect.
Right.
But they're full on hardcore into it, and they do an amazing job. Right. Another episode this season we investigate. I'm just blanking. It's one of the casinos down by Buffalo Bills, not Buffalo Bills, the one across the street.
Okay.
Or you can edit this out. My brain fart.
Remember the name of it?
Whiskey Pete's.
Okay.
Yeah. So there's another episode where we investigate Whiskey Pete's because it's closing down, which was cool to be in a casino that's basically gutted and empty because you're used to seeing it lively. So it's just really weird and eerie. And then we brought out comedian Matt Rife with us for that one. And it was the same thing. Like, I didn't realize, like, he's a full-on investigator. Like, he actually does ghost hunting in his spare time as well.
No way.
So it was really cool to do that and experience that.
He must have loved that.
Yeah. I think we talked about, we do the Winchester Mystery House, and we do a seance on the 100th anniversary of Houdini being there with the only blood relative, which was pretty amazing. Wow. We do another old classic haunted mansion called the Rispin Mansion, where we found, like, it's kind of been sitting abandoned, but we find this a lot, which is another scary variable and layer to add into things. People have been breaking in there and doing their own rituals. Like, we found, symbolism and remnants of rituals. And, like, that's the thing. Like, we don't know what these people are doing, what they're trying to conjure, what they're trying to bring out. And even if they're doing it right, even if they're just like kids with a Ouija board messing around, sometimes you can open up something and it really, can create a dark environment.
Right. Speaking of poltergeist for one second, do you have a favorite scary movie that like is so believable that scared the shit out of you?
I mean, poltergeist always stuck there. I was always a big fan of The Shining growing up. I always liked that, which is it's basically a ghost story as well.
Did you like Blair Witch Project?
Yeah. Actually, we do. It probably won't even air for probably another year, but we just did something connected with the Blair Witch, which would be really cool to see when that comes out. But like I said, that probably won't be for a long time.
So we think there's going to be a season 30.
I mean, there's
enough to do.
Oh yeah, we've shot them. So like I said,
there's no lack of ghosts. I guess
we just keep shooting. So we definitely have a good little backlog of episodes right now.
Awesome. So people can catch Ghost Adventures on Discovery Channel. It airs at 10 p.m.
Yep, 10
every
p.m.
week.
Wednesday night.
It's so nice to meet you. I find this fascinating. You've sort of made me a believer. I'm really excited to watch your show for sure.
Yeah, I mean, come by the Haunted Museum and check that out sometime. You can just going on a tour and going around there, you can pick up on things.
Yeah, amazing
things. And even in Vegas locally, there's a lot of things. There's a buddy of ours who does haunted tours over at the Pioneer Saloon, things like that. So there are things that you can do. Like you can just kind of get out and dip your toes in it, if you will.
Right. My last question is because there's so many skeptics, like what do you think it would take for someone or for the masses to really believe? Do you think it's as simple as somebody needs to see something for themselves? Like the alien needs to come down from the sky and reveal itself? Or do you think that as decades go on, this will be a normal thing that people believe in?
I hope it will be. I think it will be to an extent, which is good, is that it'll be acceptable and people realize it. But I think, I don't know, I guess the negative part of it that I think about is like today's society, the way it's going, people are so quick to move on.
Yeah.
Like I even do feel like an alien ship could come down right now and people are like, oh my God, all right, okay, all right, well, what's next? And just kind of, you know what I mean? Like I hope, and that's, I'm hoping that people embrace things more, but I do see the way things are going that like, people are always moving on to the next thing quick. And it's kind of like, whatever.
And it is kind of like if something was right in front of your face, I don't know that people would believe it as much too, you know?
Or they'll still try to find something like, oh, maybe it was.
Debunk it.
Yeah, like maybe I was just dreaming. And just maybe we're all somehow slipped drugs or, they'll try to find something. And
so maybe we need to believe a little more.
Exactly. I think just being open-minded and honestly, like I said earlier, like I don't claim to be an expert. Like people call me an expert because we've done it for so long, but I'm like, don't call me that. Like I'm still learning. I'm still trying to figure it all out.
You're just someone who's
I have a lot of experience. Exactly. Yeah. And that's the thing, we don't know. Like it might be something that one day we're like, oh yeah, that's normal. That's regular. And I hope it is in a way. But it's just something about being able to explore that. And, like I said earlier, giving people closure at things, giving people their sanity back and their comfort back. I think it's an important thing. So, I mean, if people are out there and they're experiencing things, like you're not alone. Yeah. If you feel like you are, there's communities out there that you can definitely tap into. And,
if people want to reach out to you, where can they find you?
On social media, Instagram, Facebook as J Wasley Film, Twitter or X now as J Wasley. My company is Simple Equations Media. So we have a .com. I mean, things get filtered through, but come to me eventually.
Awesome. And do you read your DMs?
I try not to.
Okay.
Every once in a while, I'll just check just to see if there's something worth it. But these days it's tough. There's just too much going on.
Negativity.
Yeah. Well, not even negativity, just a lot of even scams and just,
right.
And I kind of felt it was one of those things, like early on, I started trying to respond to more people, even comments, like responding to people's comments. And I still do occasionally, but like, one, I won't feed into negativity. Like, I'm a very big delete and block person. Like, if you're bringing negativity, especially you're coming to one of my pages, and just spewing negativity, I don't even, it's just you're gone,
right?
But I still try to, chime in as much as I can. Because if it wasn't for our fans, we wouldn't be able to do what we do. So I appreciate that.
Right.
But it's also like I've had people where they're like, "Oh, I've commented 50 times and you've never responded to me," and I'm like. So it's like, you do one, then you have to do everyone. And it's just like, I try not to, I'm just kind of like, but I do read them. I look at the comments and I appreciate it all. So it doesn't just go away. Like I respect it and very thankful for everybody that
does that.
Awesome. Well, I wish you the best of luck. Everybody should watch Ghost Adventures. It's on Discovery Wednesdays at 10 p.m. I'm excited to see it. Such an honor to meet you. Thank you for doing the show.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening to Misunderstood. I'm your host, Rachel Yucatel. Please be sure to subscribe to the show and give us a 5-star rating and review. You can support the show by joining our Patreon at patreon.com/misunderstood with Rachel Yucatel. Do you have ideas for the show or want to reach out? Email us at info misunderstoodpodcast@gmail.com. That's spelled MISS understood. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next time.